Rainy night on the highway, the moment the heart stopped. Rain poured down the highway like thousands of icy needles, stabbing into the glossy black asphalt. The howling wind, mixed with the screech of tires, echoed like a fierce symphony of nature and metal. That night, the highway was lit up by headlights slicing through the rain, yet suffocatingly dark in between, where the night swallowed everything. Ethan Miller bent down, the lights reflecting on his face blurred by rain. He wore a yellow reflective jacket, holding a steel shovel with worn edges. In front of him lay a small figure, a deer, neck broken, twisted across the lane. Blood had spread, the stench of iron mingled with the damp asphalt and exhaust fumes, rushing straight into his nose, making him frown slightly. He murmured, his voice blending into the rain. "I'm sorry, little one. I'll get you out of here, so you don't have to lie cold like this anymore." His eyes burned, unsure if it was from the rain or from sudden rising emotions. The roar of a truck engine thundered from afar, at first just a low hum, then rapidly growing, tearing through the night. Ethan looked up. In his eyes reflected two beams of blinding, furious white light rushing toward him. He cried out in his heart, "Damn it! Too fast!" The massive tires screeched on the slick road, spraying rainwater everywhere. The truck lost control, its body swaying like a crazed steel beast, charging straight at him. Ethan froze for a second. That fleeting second stretched into eternity. He wanted to run, but his legs felt nailed to the ground. His heart pounded, each beat slamming against his chest like war drums. He heard his own voice scream, choking, "Oh God, no, I'm not done yet." A blinding flash of white, then the sound of metal shredding the air. Everything went black. The first sensation was absolute silence. No rain, no engines, no chaotic honking. Just a terrifying stillness, as if the universe had stopped breathing. Ethan opened his eyes, or at least he thought he did. He saw his body sprawled on the asphalt, rain still lashing, car lights flickering in chaos. A few people ran over, their mouths wide open as if shouting, but he couldn't hear a sound. "No. Impossible," Ethan whispered, his voice echoing as if from elsewhere. He looked down at his translucent hands, glowing faintly like smoky light. His heart sank, the crushing pain in his chest vanished, leaving only weightlessness. From afar, down the highway, a radiance unfolded. It wasn't headlights, but a radiant path, stretching endlessly. That light was warm, mesmerizing, as if whispering his name. Tears flowed, though he couldn't tell from which eyes, the body lying there or the soaring soul here. His voice cracked, sobbing, Am I dead? Is this the end?" In that instant, an imagined hand touched his heart. A memory flashed, the image of his late father, the last time he smiled at him, beside the old truck. His father's voice, deep and warm, echoed from an abyss. "Son, not yet." "You still have something to do." Ethan trembled, his lips parted in despair. "Dad, oh Dad, I'm so scared. I don't want to go anywhere." The highway behind was pitch black, the mysterious light ahead, and Ethan was stretched between two worlds where his heart had just stopped, where his soul wavered between life and death. That moment was the boundary. The moment an ordinary man clearing an animal's corpse, lonely, became a witness to his own soul departing. And the unanswered question hung amid the midnight rain. Would Ethan Miller step into the light, or was something still waiting for him back in that world of tears and darkness? A quiet life. That morning, the early sun slipped through the curtains, shining into a small house on the outskirts of an Ohio town. The wall clock struck 6, the second hand ticking steadily. Ethan Miller sat at the old wooden table, slowly sipping black coffee, its bitter aroma filling the kitchen. On the floor, his old dog Rusty lifted his head, eyes clouded like mist, gazing at him with loyalty. "Up early, buddy?" Ethan bent down, scratching Rusty's head gently. The dog wagged his tail, whining softly. Outside the window, cars were already speeding down the highway. Ethan watched, his eyes glimmering with a familiar weariness. To many, the highway was a symbol of freedom and speed. To him, It was a silent graveyard where animal corpses lay scattered each day, squirrels, cats, and dogs, even deer. He slipped on a bright yellow reflective vest, checked the toolbox in his truck bed, shovel, burlap sacks, rubber gloves, warning lights. Everything neatly arranged. His job wasn't glamorous, but for Ethan, it was the minimum care owed to a task few ever noticed. On the way to his work site, Ethan turned on the old radio. A country song played, heavy with melancholy. He hummed along, his voice husky. "Take me home, where I belong." In that moment, the rearview mirror reflected his face. A 38-year-old man, features weathered, eyes deep set, wrinkles carved not by age, but by stormy nights spent bent over the bodies of nameless creatures. A memory surged, sudden as a cold wind. He recalled the day his father died in an accident on this very highway. One afternoon, his father, driving a lumber truck, swerved to avoid a dog darting across. The truck overturned, and he never survived. Ethan was only 17 then. The image of his father lying motionless haunted his growing years. "I won't let anyone die quietly on the road, not even an animal," he had once whispered at his father's grave, like a naive vow. Perhaps that was why Ethan chose this work, despite the scorn of many. That noon, he pulled over to the roadside, staring at the body of a cat run over. Cars sped past, no one caring. Ethan stepped down, quietly slipped on gloves, and gently lifted the cat into a cloth bag. "I'm sorry, little one. At least you won't be left here." A street vendor nearby grimaced. "I don't get why you'd choose this job. Filthy, miserable. Why not work as a guard or factory hand instead?" Ethan only gave a faint smile, his eyes still tender toward the small creature in his hands. "Someone has to. If not, the roads will reek only of death." The man shook his head and walked off. Rusty barked softly from the truck, as if understanding and sharing his master's heart. By late afternoon, Ethan returned to the small house. He fed Rusty, then sat in the armchair, turning on the TV. Noisy reports of politics, stocks, traffic accidents rolled by. He barely paid attention until a small headline appeared: "Rise in animal-related accidents on highways." Ethan sighed. He whispered to himself, "More souls lost." In that instant, his eyes shone with bottomless sorrow. His life drifted quietly, with no one to share it with but his old dog. His ex-wife had left years ago, unable to bear a silent life, clinging to a job she called meaningless. When night fell, Ethan sat on the porch. Far away, headlights streaked across the highway. A strange premonition echoed within him, as if fate itself drew near. He looked up at the clouded sky, whispering, "Dad, I've kept my promise. But am I truly on the right path?" The night wind blew cold, carrying the smell of asphalt, the rumble of the highway. Ethan shivered, as though hearing an invisible call, a foreboding he couldn't explain, that something was about to happen, something that would change his life forever. The moment swallowed, the gate of light. It rained heavily for hours. The drops were like thousands of small bullets pounding the road, turning the entire highway into a mirror strip reflecting the flashing headlights. Ethan drove slowly, his eyes constantly scanning the road for unusual shadows. And then he saw it. A large deer lying sprawled across the right lane, its body motionless, its legs stiff as if running in an unfinished dream. He turned on the hazard lights, pulled over to the shoulder. Rusty in the cabin barked softly, as if trying to warn him. Ethan stroked its head, smiling. "Just a few minutes, old friend. Then we'll go home." He put on his reflective vest and stepped out. The rain slapped his face, biting cold. Ethan took a shovel, bent down, intending to drag the deer's body out of the lane. Suddenly, a truck horn ripped through the night. A blinding white headlight shone straight at him, so bright it made everything around vanish. Ethan jolted, turned his head, and his heart felt as if it had fallen into a deep pit. A container truck was hurtling toward him, out of control. He shouted, his voice breaking, "No! No! God!" Time slowed. All sounds turned into a heavy roar in his ears. His heart pounded, then suddenly went out. Darkness. Silence. Ethan opened his eyes. But first, he saw himself. His body lay motionless on the wet road, blood spreading red, his reflective vest torn open. Rusty in the truck howled, barking furiously, claws scratching at the glass. He gasped, "No, impossible. Am I outside my body?" His hands were translucent, a gentle light emanating, like white smoke dissolving in the rain. When he tried to touch his body, his hand only passed through, cold. Ethan burst into tears. The tears fell, but turned into tiny, shining droplets, vanishing into the air. "Someone, please, don't let me die like this. I have Rusty. I have so many things left to do." But no one heard. The drivers around stopped, ran toward his body, shouting, calling for emergency. They frantically shook his body, but to Ethan it was only a silent movie. Then something strange happened. The endless highway suddenly split open, as if someone had torn the night's rain curtain. From that gap, a stream of light poured down, so brilliant it made all the vehicle lights seem ordinary. That light was not only bright, but warm. It touched Ethan, enveloping him in a soothing sensation. The horns, the wails, the pounding rain, all vanished. Instead, there was a resonant whisper, like a distant chorus. "Come here, Ethan. Come here with us." He trembled, his sole legs automatically lifting, moving toward the gate of light. The road before him extended like a tunnel, woven from millions of interlaced white golden rays. On both sides, bluish and purple glimmers spun like lost souls. Ethan muttered, his voice choked. "So beautiful, but should I go?" A familiar voice rang out, leaving him stunned. "Ethan!" He spun around. Amid the hazy light, a figure appeared. A man with graying hair, a kindly gaze Ethan could never forget. "Dad! Father!" Ethan cried out, tears mingling with the falling light. His father smiled, his warm voice echoing. "Son, it's time to face the truth, but you cannot stay here. Not now." Ethan trembled, his hands reaching as if to cling. "I'm so tired, Dad. This life, I am just a nobody, clearing bodies on the road. Who would remember me?" His father shook his head, the light surrounding him growing brighter. "No, Ethan. You have done what few have the courage to do. You bring peace to abandoned creatures. You have a greater mission," Ethan screamed, his voice breaking, lost within the universe of light. "But I'm so lonely. No one needs me." At that moment, from the surrounding void, shadowy figures appeared. Dozens of bright eyes glittered at him. Dogs, cats, squirrels, birds, and even the deer he had once cleared from the road. But this time, they were no longer in pain. They looked at him silently with gratitude and gentleness. A small dog darted forward, wagging its tail. Ethan recognized it, the very dog he had once lifted from the road many years ago. He choked up, collapsing, his hands of light touching the phantom fur. "My God, you remember me?" The souls did not answer, only quietly surrounded him, and Ethan understood. He had never been alone. At the end of the tunnel of light, a large gate was opening, the light so brilliant it seemed to erase all thought. Ethan felt his soul's heart tremble. One more step, and he would enter eternity. But behind him, Rusty's long howl echoed, reaching even this place. That sound, pleading and painful, pulled Ethan's heart back. He turned, tears blending with the light. "Rusty, I can't leave you yet." His father's voice sounded stern but full of love. "Decide, son, go on or return." The light ahead was dazzling, the darkness behind alluring. Ethan stood there, his heart torn between two worlds, knowing this decision would change everything. Spiritual journey between two worlds. The light ahead blazed like an endless ocean, while behind, Rusty's painful howls still pierced the misty distance. Ethan stood motionless, his soul's heart stretched between two opposing forces. His father stepped closer, eyes gently bright, a hand radiating light reaching out. "Ethan, you have been tired for too long. Here, there will be no more pain, no more loneliness. You will find peace." Ethan trembled, his voice faltering. "But, Rusty, Remains alone. I can't leave him. His father smiled, shaking his head. Rusty will follow you in time, but not now. And you still have a mission unfinished. You think you are invisible, but in fact, every day you live, you leave traces in other people's hearts. Ethan frowned, about to ask when the space around him shifted. The stream of light twisted, opening like a giant screen. And then he saw himself. He saw 10-year-old Ethan, standing trembling by the roadside, holding a small cat run over by a car. Tears streamed down the young face. Beside him, his father placed a hand on his shoulder, speaking in a deep, warm voice. No one deserves to die in silence, Ethan. If you can give them a last bit of respect, do it. That is how you keep humanity. Adult Ethan watched that scene, choked as he whispered, I had forgotten. Father taught me that from that day. The image changed. He saw himself, many years later, clearing the body of a small dog from the highway. At that time, a boy in his mother's car looked out, his terrified face gradually softening when he saw Ethan gently lift the animal, wipe its eyes, and place it on the grass. The mother whispered to her son, See, son, someone still cares. Ethan sobbed, My God, I had no idea. Someone saw me do that. Then the images rotated again. He saw a young woman driving, stopping by the roadside, haunted by the shredded body of a deer. But Ethan had come, cleared it, leaving the road peaceful. The girl looked at him, tears falling, whispering, Thank you, stranger. Ethan collapsed to his knees, hands covering his face, bursting into tears. The luminous tears fell and turned into thousands of glittering specks, rising into the void sky. I thought I was meaningless, but it turns out I brought them peace. His father laid a hand on his shoulder, his voice warmer than ever. That's right, my son. Life is not measured by fame or money, but by the gentleness you sow into the darkness. You have lived a life of value, even if you did not realize it. Around them, the animal souls Ethan had saved continued to appear. They no longer bore signs of death, but shone like stars, clustering around him. Barks, songs, calls blended into a warm melody echoing through the void. Ethan reached out to touch the stream of light, trembling as he whispered, So peaceful. Father, I want to stay here. I am too tired. His father looked at him, in his eyes both love and sternness. If you stay, you will find peace. But if you return, you will learn to cherish each moment, and you will change your life. Ethan, this is a choice that no one but you can make. Ethan fell silent. Before him, the gate of light opened wide, inviting like heaven's embrace. But behind him, Rusty's long howl ripped the heart. He remembered the mornings Rusty lay by his feet, those loyal eyes that never left him. He turned to his father, eyes full of tears. If I return, will you be disappointed? His father stepped forward, arms wide to embrace Ethan. Light from his being flowed into his son, warm and gentle like a real embrace. He whispered into his ear, Never. I will always be here watching over you. Go, Ethan, live, finish the path you left unfinished. At that moment, the gate of light trembled, as if about to close. Ethan took a breath, his heart of light pounding. He gripped his father's invisible hand, pressed it to his forehead, then uttered through tears, I will return. For Rusty, and for all that you taught me. His father smiled. The entire sky of light exploded into countless dazzling rays, swirling Ethan into a brilliant vortex. He fell, feeling as if dropping from the peak of the sky into an endless abyss. The light snapped off. Darkness swallowed, and Ethan felt a strange beat surge in his chest. He was not dead. Return and transformation. Breath from the darkness. Beep. 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 The monitor's sound echoed slow, faint. In the stark, white emergency room, doctors and nurses rushed around a body drenched in blood. They shook, called, pressed the chest, shocked with electricity. A nurse shouted, her voice trembling, No pulse! No response. The chief doctor clenched his jaw, sweat streaking down his temple. Prepare to shock again. Last time, the paddles pressed against Ethan's chest. A loud boom rang. His whole body jolted violently. Beep! Beep! Then a long straight line stretched. The entire room froze. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. Suddenly, beep, beep, beep. The heartbeat returned. The nurse sighed in relief. Someone burst into tears. Ethan's eyes snapped open. He gasped, as if surfacing from drowning. His body trembled, sweat and tears mixing together. He blurted out, voice hoarse yet filled with terror. "Rusty, Father, I saw the light." The doctor laid a hand on his shoulder, voice softened. "You're safe now. Don't speak, just breathe." But Ethan could not stop crying. The tears spilled, not from pain, but from an overwhelming surge of emotion. He had returned, from where he should have vanished forever. A few days later, Ethan was discharged. His wounds had not yet healed, but in his eyes there was something new, brighter, deeper, as if he carried in his heart a secret that words could never capture. Rusty leapt into his arms as soon as he stepped out the hospital gate. The dog howled, tail thrashing, eyes glistening, as if it understood everything. Ethan dropped to his knees, arms wrapped around it, sobbing aloud. "I promised, Rusty. I won't leave you behind. We still have time together." Passers-by turned to look, none truly understanding, but that embrace bore the weight of a soul returned from death. In the weeks that followed, Ethan was no longer the same man. He no longer trudged through life, seeing his work as a burden. Instead, each time he cleared an animal's body, he bowed and whispered, "Go in peace. I saw you on the other side. You are not alone." One day, a little boy curiously asked his mother, "Mom, why did that man bow to a dead cat?" The mother paused, then replied, "Because he has a heart bigger than many others, my child." Ethan overheard, and he smiled. That smile was no longer sorrowful, but a serenity drawn from the depths of his soul. One night, he sat before his house, Rusty resting his head on his lap. Above, the sky was filled with stars. Ethan gazed upward, whispering into the void, "Father, I understand now. I live to bring peace. I live to love." The wind stirred through the trees, leaves rustling like a distant reply. Ethan closed his eyes, pressing his hand to his chest. The steady beat echoed within, each pulse a miracle. He no longer feared death, because he had passed through it, and returned with a new heart. That day, an anonymous highway cleaner became a witness to the miraculous, and for him, every moment afterward was a gift. If you are moved by Ethan's journey back from death, leave a comment to share your thoughts. Don't forget to hit follow so you won't miss the next story that touches the heart.